where they were, and that's what we're talking about, the then and now. Our 2015 calendar, which Sean put together, is called Then and Now, and highlights a lot of those properties, which, by the way, we happen to have on sale back up there at the table, our table. And we have previous calendars on sale. There's some pretty good deals on sports and firefighters calendar and so forth. And if you want to become a member of the society, just feel free to stop at the table up there. You'll see Linda Rennie. She just raised her hand, one of our trustees over here, our secretary, raising her hand, Linda Rennie. That's Linda. If you want to become a member, we can always use members and support and so forth. I always tell people history as far as fundraising goes and raising money is at the bottom of the food chain. We really are. It's very hard to raise money for history. It's very easy to raise for the Boys and Girls Club, cancer-related things, feed the poor and all that, but when you ask for money for history, it's like, they get it. So it's very hard. So we can use everybody's help. The membership is only $15 for 1 year, so we could use your help. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our featured speaker tonight. He's a former resident of Marlborough, graduated from Assabet Valley in 1982, moved out of Marlborough, I don't know why, in 1990, and he lives in Northbridge now, but he has been researching the rock. I'm going to let him tell the whole story and about it, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very interesting. And we promise to get you out of here because we have to be out of here by 9 o'clock. So we'll get you out of here probably even before that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Bruce Casey.
It's not a piece of the rock, but what it is, it's a reproduction of one of the paintings done in the 70s. Which is kind of really interesting. We'll tell you that story of the gentleman that painted it later on. So our story goes very simply. My name is Bruce Casey. My parents had Paul and Janine Casey. My father came from Waltham. My mother came from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada. In 1959, they moved to Hudson. Lower Main Street. Okay, that's when the history of the Caseys started. They moved in 1963 to Marlborough, to Madison Street. We went to schools in the area. We grew up in the neighborhood of Madison Street and Marlborough Street, and most of these kids became lifelong friends. The story of the rock that we know of starts in 1965, that we know of. We don't know exactly when the first painting happened, but the first known painting that was relayed to us was done in 1965. The story goes, George Hutch, a city councilor from Marlborough, decided to run against Casey Haydad for mayor. In the time of the 60s, anybody painting a rock would be subject to prosecution. So the first great painting that was done in 1965 was actually done after nightfall. And it was a simple painting. It said, elect Hutch for mayor. It was done by Bill Mylap, and he later on went on to work for Carling Brewery in Dayton, and unfortunately he passed away in an industrial accident at that job. But that is the first painting. The second painting that we have on record is from 1971. I'm going to go back to the reason why I started this painting page. I'm a researcher. I've learned how to research Acadian history, and I'm an historian of my whole family lines. In the process of becoming a historian, I've become a historian or student of history in general. So anything that happens in my life, I have to know the history behind it. It's a curse, but I love it. Okay? So one day, we're thinking of painting a rock for my sister. My sister came out with me in 2010. And I said to myself, I wonder what the history of the rock is. So I started doing research. Went down the normal avenues of going to the libraries. And I came to the historical societies. And I realized there was no history of this rock. Okay? To people in Marlborough and Hudson, this is pretty powerful. Very powerful. If you go through the paintings here, you'll see a lot of paintings that are very personal to a lot of people. And what we've done, one night, I decided to post a painting of the Boston Bruins. In 1990, the Bruins played in the Stanley Cup Finals and failed to win. But they were down 3-1. And we decided we were going to stick up the Bruins and paint the rock. And this is the rock right here. Now the techniques of painting, okay, you can do your regular jump on someone's shoulders and do this, okay? But what we did with this rock is we took an edge, a straight edge, and we brought across the whole rock. We put planks and milk cartons right here, and then we painted the whole thing white. And then we put a screw in the middle of the rock, and then with the edge, we drew the straight lines, drew them out. And this is what you came up with. And then we wrote a little more about, you may be down, but you're not out. And then we went further, and we wrote down our parents' names, our fathers' names, because that was the thing. And if you know me, I'll let you a little secret. My grandfather moved down here from Canada in 1923, and the Bruins started in 1924. So he watched the whole Bruins history from that point on up to the present. So this is where our family gets our loyalty to Bruins. So this is a picture of me back in 1990 in May, and this is the rock. So it was raining that night, and I came down and put a top over it, and it's really set really nice. So that's just some of the background of where I come from. So that's Coppolino, and other people in this room. My brother David Casey graduated after 1975. A couple of his paintings will be shown tonight, and his best friend Bob Morrell, whose father was a commander in the Navy and decided to retire back in his hometown of Hudson. He came down in 1973 and retired. And Bob came in as a teenager into that area, and one of the activities he got involved with the Hudson CYO band. And they welcomed him into the band, and he's been a brother ever since. So we're going to go through a little the history. So why don't we start the program, Jess? Jess has turned out to be one of the administrators of the rock page. And basically all the administrators have felt the same way I felt about creating a history and writing down the history so people will have a general idea of the history of the rock other than just driving by them. You look at it really quick. Okay? The rock is a giant symbol of common grief, hope, celebration. It's like the whole concept of Facebook. It's a place where people can express themselves, say something meaningful to all to see it. We grew up painting the rock. It has layers of paint, layers of history, layers of love. Each layer is a story of real people we loved and lost. Okay? This is an example of the layers of love. And we'll be presenting a copy of something like that to the Historical Society as a testament of our talk tonight. 1971 was an era of peace, love, okay? Unfortunately, we had nicknames for different towns. Okay? One of the nicknames of Hudson is called Bone Town. Right or wrong, that's what it was. So we got this from one of our friends, and he sent it to us. And when we started the rock page, we had to come back. We couldn't just start at the present. We had to go back. So the first thing we did was we clobbered everybody. Anybody that joined, we said, join all you want. We want stories, but the first thing we want is pictures. So they sent out pictures. And one of my friends, Rich Marlborough, he's been a friend of mine, God, a long time. So when we painted the rock for my sister, in 2010, my sister came down with leukemia. She moved down to MD Anderson, Houston. It takes a lot of cost to a family. So her friends and family decided to do a fundraiser for her. We raised $15,000 in one night. And to add to the celebration of the fact that we were doing something positive, we came down and painted the rock in her honor. And Rich Riley is here painting the outline of the original ribbon that we drew on the rock. Now, Rich Riley is probably the one gentleman in the 2000s that has painted the rock the most. Okay? There was a golden era in the 70s, the 80s, but now the 70s and 80s child is coming back and painting the rock again in the 50s and 60s. And we actually have someone that was 89 years old painting the rock recently. So it's generally, the story of the rock starts in the 60s and 70s as a way for teenagers to express themselves. In almost a part, you have to have proper language. In fact, when we were painting that rock in 1990, we were doing that in the dark because we were still going with the old rules. We had minus lamps on also. And we were painting the rock, and a cruiser came down, and we said, it's all over, we're done. We moved away so we could see the painting. And when he realized it was a Bruins symbol, all he could say was, they better win. We never had a problem since. This painting right here is really touching. This is a young family, a young mother from Hudson, Tower Street to be exact. And there was a domestic problem, and the domestic problem, it ended up in a bad way. She passed away from a murder. And this is 5 years later, and this child is a 5-year-old child, and on the anniversary of that death, the child was actually raising the balloons to heaven so her mother could touch them. So there's a story behind every rock. So if we could see the next one, we can go into there and see the difference. This is considered one of the best paintings of all time. You can see how realistic it is. Now, if you've ever been to the rock and see how close you have to be to do a painting like that, it's pretty amazing. Then we have a style of a rock right here where the gentleman that died was a big motorcycle rider. So his friend drew a painting of a Harley Davidson symbol, and then he put his truck and his Harley Davidson inside the picture. So here's some happy ones for a change. Okay, look at the colors on this. This is just outstanding colors. And as far as I'm concerned, you can put a happy painting on this rock any time of the week. This one right here is a special one. Okay, we've done paintings for different things all over for people of Marlborough. 2012 in Newtown, Connecticut, we lost 21 angels to a massacre. So, in Marlborough style, the kids of the 70s, they decided they wanted to honor the people. So they came down as a community and painted the rock. And they put stars of all the angels on that rock. And that picture right there was actually taken from a bucket truck. Okay, looking high above. And that bucket truck,
Bucket truck. I was in that bucket truck.
okay? Again, another technique of painting the rock. Okay? And that's a technique. Then we have the happy ones. This one right here is Bob Jackman's daughter, Erin. And she was being asked to the prom. Now, a couple years later, she's a new mother, and she's enjoying motherhood as we speak. But her father's more involved, still involved with the rock. Now we have the classic pictures. This one right here is the only picture, the only video of any painting done. And we have a copy of the painting. It was during a playoff game, and the kids came down, the guys came down, they painted the rock and made a video, and they did the old get on top of the shoulder routine with no planning at all, you know. We kind of, nowadays, the professionals, like my brother David, he's done a couple paintings, my friend Bob over here, they're professional artists from the 70s. You'll see a couple of their paintings in the past.
Is there any rule of thumb as to how long a painting stays up before somebody else can paint over it?
No, it can be done any length of time. In fact, the kids that I went to school with, from 1982, the night before Thanksgiving, not this painting, but the night before Thanksgiving, Hudson High came down and painted the rock. And the kids from Hudson High were so proud of themselves to paint the rock. Well, what they didn't know was on the other side of the road were kids from Marlborough High. Okay, so they waited for it to dry. And then all of a sudden, they wake up the next morning, and guess what? Marlborough High's painted the rock. Okay? Generally what's really happened in the last couple of years since we started this page is people able to communicate. You know, this is my sister. This is, you know, she passed away. You know, people generally have an idea, okay, if it's a memorial rock, try to keep it up like 3 days, you know? And the first time we painted the rock for my sister, this lady came down and she goes, I'm going to paint the rock for my 10th anniversary. I said, that's a great story. But my goal is to have this painting that I'm doing for my sister up during the fundraiser, so we can celebrate that way. And when she realized she wasn't going to be able to paint the rock, she took off really quick. A little upset, but you know, that's just the way it goes. But, you know, through the years, you get different things. Here we go, we get Marlborough High's 2007 cross-country team celebrating a championship. What you don't really see is now we're getting to the earth part of our culture. They actually have masks down here to protect themselves from pain. Okay? These guys from the 70s, they never even thought of that. You know? And then we get to the Kenny Teal and Wayne Schofield. Okay? These are kids that we grew up with. And every generation has people that passed away way before their time. So Jessica's has come down, and she's made a point. It's one of her goals, and one of our goals, is to make sure that every new painting has a copy of the painting, so that painting is a living history. So 2 years down the road, if you want to see the painting you did, you just go through the pictures and bingo, there it is. And you get family members here, you know? So just, the neat thing about this is the previous generation, my parents' generation, they were newcomers to the town. We grew up in the town. They understood eventually the power of the rock. Okay? It sounds funny, the power of the rock. Okay? But it's a way to heal. You know, you can put a cross on the side of the road. I guess that's nice. But we've been able to do paintings and get healing from them. And this is the whole story, okay? This painting right here is done in memory of someone that passed away, and what they've done is they've created a memorial motorcycle ride. So the money goes back to charity. This is the first annual, this is the 5th annual. This was just a,
I wrote this.
okay,
I'll read it.
please.
It says, at night I can hear you cry. I see your shadows as you walk by. I hear your heartbeat when you are so close. I'm reaching out to you and I can feel your suffering. I'm here for you and I can help you heal. I listen and I take it all in. I hold your tears and I hold your memories. I hear you laughing and I hear your conversations. I love it when you come so close and put your hands up as if you expect me to come closer to you. I have such a thick coat and I am untouchable. And I will always be here for many years to pass. I'm strong and I'm sitting here waiting for you to come and start your celebration of life, love, and happiness. I am the rock. I am everything that you want to take. I am everything you want me to be. Take my picture and take me in history. Who are you?
These are the people we have as administrators of the rock. They understand the reason why we paint the rock. They understand what it is. So it was easy to gather them in as administrators because they understood what I was trying to get across. And this is what makes the page so fun.
To answer the gentleman's question in the back, Billy Clare wrote it perfectly when he stated, the point of painting the rock is to paint it and to let it go. It may stay for a day, a week, or even an afternoon. You paint it, and hopefully you take a couple pictures of it and you move on, knowing that it will probably be painted over soon.
Billy Clare is a art teacher at Fay School in Salton. He was just awarded a state award from a Massachusetts Art Association as the Teacher of the Year in middle school art. He's done 2 outstanding paintings. This one right here is put on by these 2 gentlemen back here, Marlborough and Dave Casey. And they were representing the Hudson CIO Band. In 1959, the Hudson CIO Band actually started out in Hudson Catholic by Monsignor Chadbourne of St. Michael's Church. He wanted a activity for the children of Hudson, and eventually became an activity for Marlborough and Hudson. And through the 70s, they became award-winning and championship quality CYO band. And they went through Massachusetts and New England, and they actually had a exhibition in Toronto, Canada, I believe, where they were recognized as one of the top bands in the area. To do that, the founder of the band was Professor Yazoway, and his job was to create the band. In 1965, his son helped take over and help do the music coaching through the years. And he was a very, very detailed gentleman. And he used to bring the kids through their paces, one practice after another. And his famous line was, again, again. And they got so good at doing it again, they brought back awards. They brought back an award from New Orleans. They brought back awards from Massachusetts. And Alfred bestowed upon him. So they decided they were going to do a rock in memory of him. And a lot of people from Marlborough and Hudson were affected by this. And we actually had a new technique done on this painting. They did the white coat, and then they brought in a battery-packed leaf blower to speed up the time of drying. So they would speed up the time of drying, and it was all done, and then they were able to paint this. They still did it at night because they wanted to keep the mystique going. This one right here, go back to one.
Oh, where's it?
I want to go back to...
Yeah, hold on a second. Going back is not my best thing here.
Okay.
Hold on. I can do this.
Jessica and I have worked on this for a long time. This one right here, I think, is one of the most powerful paintings in this whole presentation. George Swanson, just like Alfred Gazaway, was a band volunteer. What's a band volunteer do? Well, the easy way to become a volunteer is be a parent. So he had all his kids in the band. So he volunteered to do the loading, keeping kids under control during trips, so on and so on. He loved it so much that they became his kids. So you have about 100 kids at a section. You move on through the years. And he was involved with at least 20 years of kids growing up. So they wanted to remember him. So again, Marlborough comes down and paints the rest in peace symbol. His daughter, knowing it's going to happen, Janice Swanson Crossman, tells her mother. Her mother's thrilled. Can't believe that people remember her husband. She comes down and takes a picture of mother glazing into the rock. An amazing piece of cake. But these kids remember. And this is the history of the rock. This is a painting of one of the championships. In the 70s, you had an Eastern Mass segment of band competition. Then you had CYO. And they each had different championships. When they won the championship in 1975, 75, these two gentlemen were in the last year of their participation in the band, and they were getting ready to ship off to Grand Lakes, Illinois, as part of the Navy. So they did one more final rock, and then Bob decided he was going to go one up, and he was going to make us a great display for tonight.
Actually, I should clarify on that.
Yeah.
That rock was given to me on my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
They had a big surprise party for me, which was really nice. And they gave me the rock and a blue can of paint and a brush. And I painted it, and that thing has sat in every house I've lived in some dark corner. But I never threw it away.
Because he knew I was going to bring it up. Okay?
It has its own string just about that rock too.
And it really does look like the original rock. You look at it. And we're going to keep it up here so you can see it. And again, you know, here's a kid that was going all over the world. His father was in the military. He landed in Hudson in 1973. And these group of kids became his friends. Lifelong. So he decided at age 18 he was going to do this. And it's one of the most remarkable things. And when we decided to do this rock page, it was one of the first things I knew I had to get on the page. And about 2 years ago, they had a big reunion of the band. And that was the picture that was really through my thoughts to years past, was a picture of that rock and all the stuff. Recently, we got other reasons. Okay? We got soldiers coming home, so we're painting welcome home signals. The fire that happened in March, we came down and painted it. Okay, again, a child of the 70s painted it. So somehow we're getting more life into coming back and painting again. This is the 89-year-old. So this proves that it's a rock for all ages. Okay, it's a really nice rock. I mean, if you look at the style of this rock, the size of it, it's really a nice rock painting. And here's the 89-year-old painting a rock because his son's just passed away. This is Scott Ricciuti. I don't know if you know Scott Ricciuti. Scott Ricciuti was a Marlborough High School band member. And years after he came out of high school, he became a regional rock band star, so to speak. And he was doing a lot of playing during the weekends. And one weekend he came down onto Route 20, 290, and unfortunately drove off the road and passed away. So his friend, Billy Clare, came down and painted the rock. And then he put his own stamp on the rock by putting a live display in front of the rock.
Actually, it came, I went up there to take a picture the next day of the rock.
Yeah.
And there was an older gentleman by the name of Cat.
Yeah.
And he didn't even know, he was driving by, didn't know that it was actually painted yet, and had Scott stuff in his vehicle and wanted a picture, and I took that picture at that time. We didn't leave the guitar or anything there, but I was able to capture something that the gentleman was just driving by. He didn't know, he thought the rock was getting painted that day. He didn't know it was painted the day before. So I was lucky to meet this gentleman by the name of Cat and capture this photo that might never been captured.
Again, if you can stand up today and say you drove by the rock without putting your neck toward the direction of the rock, I'll have my brother David buy a copy.
So what was in front of the rock besides
It's
the
his
guitar?
guitar and it's his shoes that he wore. He was a musician. Very,
Casitas, maybe?
they're actually, they
Actually,
almost,
butt shoes.
yeah, almost look like cheerleader shoes back in the day.
Yep.
But for men. So I don't know how to
Yep.
describe it, but those were his shoes in the beginning, in the front.
This right here is a painting that I wanted to point out. It was a painting that was done 2 days before we did the painting for the passing away of my sister. And my brother Jimmy came down and did the whitewash for the painting. While he was doing the whitewash of the painting, the mother of the lady that died came down to the rock, and she wanted one more look at the rock. She was so thrilled that they remembered her daughter. She wanted one more look. And my brother Jimmy was able to tell her, we gotta do a painting for my sister, but I assure you, your daughter's rock is gonna live in time, because we have a Facebook page, and we categorize, we are placing the history of this rock on the page. And that woman was so thrilled. Amazing, just simply amazing.
The top one was for, if you live in Marlborough, the house that blew up on Grant Street last year. And Jimmy suffered injuries from that and passed away shortly after the house had blown up. And they painted the rock for Jimmy for that. And I drove by and captured that photo the next day after it was done.
Jess had gone by during the day, and she was taking pictures. Our goal is to take pictures of every rock painting done from now on. Here's some interesting pictures. The gentleman has passed away, but this is a picture of him looking at the rock. This is the style of the rock, okay? Everybody's seen the front of the rock, right? Guess what this is? This is the top of the rock, okay? This is an old tree and all the roots from it, but this is the top of the rock, okay? In the old days, back in the day, you used to bend over the rock to do the whitewash. We got a little more sensitive and a little more smart these days. Now we have ladders and whatever. And it's another style of technique. And this is the monkey man tree removal. And this is the bucket that Jess got into. And they took a picture of the painting that way. And while they were down there, they helped clear the rock. If you look at all these paintings from the 60s to 70s, you'll see that the landscape around the rock is actually grown over and actually had gone away. This is a painting of right after my sister passed away. And this is her family. This is my brother Jim, my brother David, my sister-in-law Lee, who's back there. My nephew Chris, my cousin slash niece Becca, my slash nephew, cousin Matthew, my cousin Rich, my cousin Bobby, and myself. These people, these three kids, these three people, one's from Framingham, the other two from Grafton. They were just trying to help us heal. But what they've done is they painted the rock, and now they understand why we painted. While they're painting the designs, they're thinking, wow, this is pretty cool. This is really cool. So now, whenever we do a painting, they're the first ones to ask. This was a special painting that was done at nighttime. One of the things that we've done is we've been able to forecast the paintings that are going to happen, because we're able to announce it. We're going to do a painting on Saturday for this person. So if you see us painting, this is what we're doing. This gentleman went above and beyond what we were going to do. Our plan was to do the painting, but this gentleman came down and did the painting before we could get down there.
When we all drove by and saw it was painted and he put his initials on it, it took him 2 days to research to find out who he was and contacted him. He came back and helped us put the black ribbon around his painting. After it, and added the ribbon with Strong on it. When Boston Strong came in, this guy came out of the blue and just painted the rock because he saw it there while he was driving by. Wanted to do something for us people out here on his way to New York.
So we may be natives, but people that move here, they begin to understand really quick. I have a friend of mine from that was born in Vermont, and through the sickness, my sister, she understood what was going on, and when we said we were going to paint the rock, she goes, I'm donating the orange paint. So she understood even before she came up to paint. She came down, she helped us paint, and she understood what was going on because her kids were born in the area. So she learned the reason for the rock in our eyes. Time and again time you'll see these type of paintings. Everyone has a story. And we're keeping the story alive and for the future. This is a living page. It never ends. Next. That's it.
That's the last of the slides.
Do the slides.
3,467 members we have. And they're not even all from here.
We start out in February 2010.
I want to say, I said, even as a child, I was never going to paint the rock, ever. I didn't want to say happy birthday. I didn't want to say rest in peace. I never wanted to be a part of painting the rock. And when I moved back home, shortly after I moved home, a friend of mine passed away. And I had just met his wife and children because I was gone for so long. And they asked me to help them paint the rock. And I did the outline and the children painted the rock. And this was the very first time I've painted the rock. And since then I've painted it 9 times. And all have been for rest in peace. And I've only been home for 4 years.
We're going to do a happy one.
Yeah, I need to do a happy one because I'm tired of crying. But this was one of the first ones, and it's the most meaningful one to me because his family and his children and everybody was there. But that's my first painting that I had a part in doing, and I've done 8 since. And that's just one of my most meaningful paintings.
This one right here is done by the parishioners of St. Anne's. About the same time that St. Mary's passed away, St. Anne's passed away. What happened was St. Mary's became so small that the Archdiocese of Boston consolidated 2 parishes. And eventually they closed down St. Anne's. So the parishioners of St. Anne's said, we're not going to stop there, we're going to remember ourselves. This is the painting of us painting the rock, and this is a straight edge. And the screw is around here somewhere. And you see the the miner's lamps. Now I am 5'7". And when you get down here, you become really small. Believe me. You're looking back at the road. This right here is another sad case. This gentleman went to school with me. He was class of '82. And the junior year of our careers, he was delivering newspapers early in the morning in Shrewsbury. And a drunk driver came out and blasted through a stop sign, and he was killed in the car accident. The sad story is, this gentleman's name was Bill Case. And if any of you know Bill Case Auto Body on the Hudson line right next to Washington Motors used to be, he was part of that family. So he was lining himself up to take over the family business or become one of the members of the family business. So we always remember Bill. He was a kick. State champions. Okay, we got the Hudson High state champions, but we know Hudson Catholic had a whole bunch of state champions. So we always encourage the kids to get down there and paint state championship paintings. Here's some happy ones.
Yeah, birthday ones. Go Pats.
This is a Hudson CYO rock right here, 1984.
Look at all the
The
trees.
last year that the band was incorporated was 1984. See all the trees around there? We got a lot of Hudson Catholic ones because I want to remember Hudson Catholic because they were legitimate high school. And this is the picture I was telling you about. The old school way of painting the rock. And notice the spray paint, the spray cans. Now slow it down for 1 minute. I want to also remember that we're all the 70s, the children of the 70s have grown up. We know we have to save the earth. Okay? So lately, we've gone down and cleaned up all the mess around the rock. And the ironic thing about us cleaning around the rock is we've actually taken the trash that we picked up and we've driven it up to the Marlborough police station and we dumped it in their dumpsters. So that's how far we've gone from the 60s and 70s to the present.
Everybody told me, you are crazy, you are not taking it to the police department. I said, sure I am. Pulled right up there with my pickup truck and said, we just cleaned up around the rock, can we throw this in your dumpster? And they all looked at me like I had 4 heads, and they all said, sure.
Again, we were talking to people that we grew up with. They became policemen. So you can see some of the style of rock is incredible. We let, I'll make mention of all these great designs, but it's really hard to do a painting. It really is. Here's a Hudson Catholic one of the last championships that Hudson Catholic had around 2007, I believe was when they closed. So I want to highlight that. It was a volleyball team, but they were